Alrighty then, here we are. There we go. Here we come. Just got this thing all wired back in. Even the coils assembly. And we got, the only things I got left to do is put those wires, those are the ones that go from the antenna terminals here back to the main board. But there's all the other stuff is in there and connected. So that there is a tedious process. I wouldn't have been able to do it in the time that I do it. I did it. I doed it. Doodah. If I hadn't had my little scratching chickens, chicken scratches. Damn, I'm becoming Porky Pig. Because this here schematic, it shows the point-to-points on this thing pretty much. But you'll have to do double, triple, and quadruple take, maybe more, to make sure that you're following the right wire to the right spot. This here is more like physical. This is the way it is. That there is theoretical. Conspiracy theory. Okay, so now I still have to put all of the connections in for the coils and trimmers to the push button presets adjustments, and then those antenna connection wires to the main inputs in. And let's see, we got to get that back into there, and then we're going to put the rest of the accessories onto the top of the chassis and get it ready for a test drive. So stay tuned. There'll be more eking and oohing and on coming. All right. We're all in, as they say somewhere. All the final connections are hooked up. The antenna leads are in to the board. The power to the switch. The link to the switch. I'm still going to have to utilize that hole right there. No. That hole is already utilized. That's to the speaker socket. I still got to get a panel fuse in here and get this in, but the mess is done. The rest of the stuff is easy. I could probably do it with blinders on, but I better not. So now what we're going to do is touch base with okay, what I want to touch base with with some of the folks. If you're going to take on a project such as this, get yourself some spaghetti tubing, Teflon. Teflon is the best. None of this other colored tube. You breathe on it, it's going to melt. Teflon won't melt. I've hit it with a hot iron tip and everything, and it only deforms a little bit, but it doesn't lose its shape. So when you go in there and you got to dress in tight spots, use the Teflon. I didn't do this kind of stuff in the beginning. Back in 2016 or 2017 when I was just getting started with that. Back, if you go into my YouTube channel and you go all the way back, into the way back machine, and where the first ones came out, they weren't like this. I just take and snip, snip, solder, solder, snip, snip, solder, solder. Whatever came out of the spot, I put back in the spot, and I didn't identify them. Well, one day I happened across a radio that was a real tussle, and I thought, man, I don't want to do this. Please, Mr. Custer. And so I figured, well, I better get a diagram done. So I started doing diagrams, and at the same time, I needed to know where the number 40, where the 41 cap was physically in here, because even though they had their numbers on them and well, not these numbers, but they had the value numbers of the cap on there. There was a bunch of caps with the same. So I started to do hunt down where they were connected to and how they were connected and everything, and narrowed it down to, yep, that's 41, and yep, that's 35, and yep, that's 52. And so I started numbering, putting them back in. So I started doing that, but that was, I'd say that was probably in the last year and a half, 2 years maybe. That's where I've got to the stage now where I can do work like this and not have to fret. Well, sometimes I have to fret because I pull a Brandon on myself, and I got the innie hooked to an outie and an outie hooked to an innie, and you know what I mean. So anyway, I just wanted to touch base with everybody on that. This here, I did a video a little more than a year ago, I think, on this particular thing, and the switch. I burned the switches out in these things real fast. I think, well, this one here didn't even last me 6 months, and this was the second one. I have one, when this went bad, that I bought brand new. It's still in the case back oh, there it is, right there behind the fan, over by the butane propane tank. And I fixed this one with a foot pedal to bypass this into high mode only. I figured I'd throttle it with the pedal, because this is a 2-stage. And other than that, all I had was a soldering iron, one of those pencil type soldering irons. Well, you're not going to get very far very soon with a pencil soldering iron doing this stuff with point-to-point wiring, especially with the globulas that they got on these things from the big-ass irons that they used when they put these things together. And they got 15 wires to one lug on a terminal strip wrapped around at least 1.5 times. You can use a solder braid if you want to suck your solder. I use one of these pumps, and it works just great. And it's got Teflon tips on the thing. You don't have to worry about burning them and everything, but they give you an extra tip for just in case, because after a while it does wear a little bit on the inside, and you start getting solder that sticks to it, and you have to pick it out. Dump it about every 10 or 15 cycles that you use it for your stuff, and it works great. You don't have to spend money for expensive copper solder braid in order to get it out. But you're going to need a gun. Well, this ain't no Second Amendment shit. This is you get heat on there, you get it liquefied, and you get it off. And you do that for most of that. You can see here I use the coil method, and it's a hell of a lot quicker and faster, and you leave telltale points at each end wherever it goes. The only thing you got to do is figure out where you're at in the schematic, and that's why I like using the schematic. And I after I got them in and hooked up, I just highlight them off. And that way I know, hey, that one, I know where that one's at, and I go right to it. Anymore. Boy, when it was first, I'd double, triple, quadruple, quintuple. I mean, you know how they say, measure twice and cut once? Well, I looked 20 times and cut once. So, anyway, that's what you do. Get you a gun, as well as having a solder tip, because you need a soldering iron for delicate work like this, because you don't want to be loosening up these tangs on these things. Get you a pack of, you can buy this stuff in bulk. I get mine from Sal's Capacitors, only because he had it there, right there in front of my face, and I thought, I'm going to try some of that, and I came back to the watering hole a number of times. So get you some Teflon tube, get you some other tube. It doesn't hurt to have it there. Like I say, don't be chintzy. Spread the wealth. Get you some wire, various colors of wires. You could get it off one loom and do whatever you need to do, and but I'd like to keep it pretty much like it was. There are going to be substitutions that you need to make, because they don't, you know, there ain't such an animal here, or you got a close match there, or whatever. I try to keep it close. So, and then get you some shrink tube. Get you some shrink tube for that. And then get you a shit pot full of capacitors. You can buy them. You can buy them in assortments. I don't buy them in assortments. I buy 25 at a time in lots of 25. Depending on the values. Higher values, you'll spend more per cap. Like the 0.1s, 0.01s, 0.2s, 0.4s. But they're cheaper. They're cheaper by the dozen, as they say. And you get yourself an assortment of them. Like I say, you can buy them in an assortment value where there's 25 of each value, but a lot of values you don't use. These are pretty much the values I use. I use a lot of 0.01s, a lot of 0.04s, double 04s, double O2s and double O2s, and some O3s and double O3s. Double O3s you'll find in the audio circuit pretty much, and double O2s. Double O6s you'll find in the audio circuits also. And then you have your micas. I got me an assortment of micas. I got 50s, 100s, 120s, 150s, 220s, 250s, 330s. These here are 370s. I got some of those. And they're all mica caps. Now the micas are going to cost you a little bit more. So get stocked up. Get yourself a small little radio with an AM only, and go to work on it. Take your time with it, and when you get it done and everything, you're going to have a little bit of experience under your belt and some techniques developed. Thinking, you know, because I developed my techniques over a period of time. It wasn't this way from the beginning, and I started rebuilding these radios. Not rebuilding them, but refurbishing them in a novice way in 2015. 2015, and I was a construction worker. I wasn't an electronics buff, although I did have some preliminary electronics in high school, and some later, 10 years later, whenever I graduated high school and was about 21, and I went to DeVry school, but I didn't even finish that. And radios and TVs and stuff like that, they weren't my forte. I was more like I was headed into the computer thing. But I didn't start this 2016, and I got me a little book, How to Service Radios or something like that. It it didn't take me but 2 days to read through the whole entire cover to cover without going to sleep, and decided to try my hand at it. And guys, it worked. So I kept going, and then I developed over time into what you see here. No, I don't look like that, but I do this. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next segment.